Do you think you can buy a property in Australia for 2% deposit? Sounds like a dream, right? It's not a dream, people. So Labor has expanded their Help to Buy scheme. This Help to Buy scheme, it's meant to address the barrier to entry into buying a property in Australia. So let's give you some background about Australian property. I haven't spoke about property in Australia for a while because it's heartbreaking. The story about Australian property is really heartbreaking. It's about failure in policy, failure a lot in so many levels. But anyway, now people who are working in Australia who are earning around 90,000 to 100,000, this policy is meant to address their barrier to entry, save enough money to be able to buy property on their own. Because if you are in that category, even if you are around 200,000, the barrier to entry into having a deposit on your own without being helped by your rich mom and dad, it's really difficult. It's almost impossible. It's many years of saving, and hopefully you can be able to get some money from your parents if they have money. But if you are not one of those people who are having wealthy parents who would be able to give you a deposit, it's impossible for you to be able to enter the property market in Australia. So with this Help to Buy scheme, the income target is between 90 to 100,000 Australian dollars. It's a 2%. You can buy a property as little as 2% deposit. The rest of it will be paid by the taxpayer in a form of equity loan. Okay, so for example, if the average property price, it's around 800,000 Australian dollars. Say you find a property that is 800,000 Australian dollars that you're going to buy, and you're one of those people who meets the eligibility criteria for this Help to Buy scheme. Let me put this into perspective. If you say you buy an average house, 800,000 Australian dollars house, and you get a 2% deposit through this Help to Buy scheme, which would be around 16,000 Australian dollars. That means your mortgage, your loan from the bank, would be around 784,000 Australian dollars. That is a massive amount of loan for anybody to have. And this is actually put a lot of risk to you, the person who's going to have this massive debt, if the market were to have a dip, because you will end up with what we call negative equity, meaning your house is worth less than what you own for that house. If you want to sell it, you will have to pay the difference to the bank or to the taxpayer. So also this put the public purse at risk for volatility that may occur around this scheme. They also question whether Australia would actually ever have affordable houses. Why I'm saying that? Because if a government has invested a lot of money into properties, would the government have, a regulatory framework in planning, in zoning, in increased construction so that property prices can actually follow the market trend? That means be controlled by the market, not be inflated by how much the government put money into it. So they would then forever be forced to inflate the property prices, because why? They wouldn't want to lose the money, the public money, our taxpayer dollar, to fund this. They will forever be trying to push the prices higher so they can get their money back. So that means the property prices in Australia, it's going to be forever inflated somehow. It's not going to be determined by supply and demand. It's going to have another layer on it. Supply and demand, and the third one would be government intervention, government inflation. I'm not happy with this policy because I just believe that if your government's responsibility is the regulatory framework and to regulate in such a way you make the market fairer for a little guy, meaning people who are unemployed, people who with disability should be able to have enough property for them to be able to pay for what they can afford for rental. And us, people who are employed, who've got money, we should enter the market with our money that we are working for every day and save enough to be able to enter the property market. But we can't because of too many people, short period of time with little supply and, planning and around zoning, construction and yada yada to actually cope with that demand. So I know they've cut on this, overseas people from buying houses in Australia for 2 years, but I think it should be forever. They should always be encouraged to buy brand new property, not established houses. Because if you buy established houses, if a foreigner buy established houses, many of them, they buy established houses just to pocket their money in a safe country. And we don't even know how they got that money in the first place because they're of the financial prudency that Australia doesn't have enough financial prudency to even verify that people who are spending this money on property in Australia, they actually earn that money legitimately enough. There is a lot of problems around that as well to verify how you got this money. Did you get this money legitimately in a way that you earn it, or you got a business and investment, or was it the money that you acquired through dodgy businesses? Yeah. There is a lack in that regulatory framework of financial regulatory monitoring system in Australia that is obvious. Anyway, if you're somebody who pays attention to this stuff, many of you don't anyway, you just follow to what they say and you don't think about, wait a minute, forever. That means forever. The prices in Australia are going to be higher just because the government, taxpayer, has actually put a lot of money into it. They will try with all means to ensure the property goes up. Because anyway, when you look at it, they all benefit from the property that's going up anyway. The politician, nearly all of them have some kind of a property investment. All of them nearly have some kind of a deal, property investment there. Politicians are the same, They're the same. Doesn't matter. You're in South Africa, you're in Australia, they're all the same. Same thing. Yeah. Yeah, the issue here is the taxpayer. The taxpayer is going to be the money for the taxpayer, that means us who paying tax. That money that's going to be used as equity should actually a shock in the system, say we having a recession, we got that crazy man in the White House. Should anything happen, we might end up, with a big recession. What happened to the money, the taxpayer money that's going to be used to be as an equity for people to buy houses? We have a massive unemployment because somebody in the White House has been madman doing stuff that actually affect the whole system. Or there's another World War III brewing somewhere. And then what happened then to the money the taxpayer money that's put into this equity property? This is a risky business, people. This policy has extreme risk to the Australian today and the future Australian population, because the debt that's going to support this is going to have to be paid. You're going to have to pay. You pay it, or your kids are going to pay it. It's not going to sit there for yeah. So you have to actually think about these things. You're going to have a massive amount of interest to pay on the $784,000. And if that per month is way going to be around 4,000 just for a mortgage alone. You still have other things that you have to pay, council rate, all of that. Risky. And when you factor the interest that you're going to pay for that loan over that period, it is very risky in so many levels. I have a big problem about this policy. I don't like it because it doesn't address the fundamental issue around Australian property. That is the availability of property, the increased supply, which is meaning by building more properties for people. And over the last 3 years, 2.5 years of Labor, they've actually allowed so many people in Australia, and they haven't actually increased the supply of those houses. If you allow many people into the country and you don't increase the resources, meaning housing and other stuff, so that's going to strain the property. And what we're seeing in Australia is that the rental affordability. Because when you think about it, if you come to a country, you don't come in and just buy a property unless you're one of those people who are wealthy, who's you just want to pack your money in Australia. This is for people who are skilled, who are going to help in building Australia. But if you bring so many of them and you haven't actually built enough properties and you don't have enough property, they will end up in rental markets. And rental markets, and most people who are coming in the country anyway don't actually buy property. They start renting first because it makes sense. You cannot go to a place that you don't know, that's new, and just buy a property. What if your neighbor is a crazy person who sings the whole time? What are you going to do? I mean, what if you hate the place? Something about the place that you just don't like. There's so many reasons that you wouldn't like the place. I mean, you wouldn't just, out where you are and then say, oh yeah, I'm going to just buy a property in a new place that not familiar with. What is the demographic, the feeling of the place, the transportation and all the stuff. So you want to rent first. So that's why you're seeing that strain in the rental market. That is so huge. The price of rental is going up and up and up. The issue with that is that the rental is actually included in the CPI. If the rent is going up and up, people with mortgage, they're not going to have a breather. We had the last interest rate cut, but even with the data that's coming out, it was very early interest rate cut. It looks like we actually, I don't understand the reason why it was cut. I can understand the pressure for it to be cut. But when you're factoring the fact that we have a very expensive electricity and gas, and in New South Wales alone, it's predicted that gas will go up about 9% increase in the gas price. So the gas prices, the rental market is the price that's going to enter the CPI data. So if they're getting higher, the RBA is not going to be increased. It's not going to drop the interest rate. It's likely the RBA might think about increasing the interest rate. So if you're going to have that bigger mortgage, if the interest rate go up, are you going to be able to cope? And say, for example, somebody is earning around that, within that range, about 90,000 to about 100,000. This is like a mortgage payment of 4,000 a month that you'll be expected to pay into that house for that loan you got for 2% deposit. if interest rate were to go up a little bit, many people wouldn't be able to survive to pay for it, pay for that house. So that's risky. So if the house price were to drop because we have someone that's crazy in the White House, if we go to the recession or depression, the prices drop to the level where there's a shock in the system due to anything that nothing to do with the government, but it's to do with external factor. Global recession is something massive shocker. The price drops in Australia, and you've taken that loan. That's 784,000. The price of the house drop. You're going to have what we call negative equity. You will owe more on your house than what your house is worth. Should you then struggle to pay for that house, when you sell it, you're going to be owing a bank, meaning you're going to owing the bank and the taxpayer some money to repay back, even though the house has been taken from you because you couldn't pay for it. You're struggling to pay for it because of other reason. I don't like this policy. I'm not a big fan of this policy because it's actually eco-socialism. I don't like it. That's why I just don't like. I feel like the government's role is to regulate in a way that is actually efficient enough to provide essential services. If you make housing to be a way people get wealthy, that's how people get wealthy anyway in Australia. It's not through new industry, it's not through innovation, it's just through housing and also through mining. So housing has become this another asset for many people where they can build their wealth. But this problem, it now has led to a lot of demographic problem in some states, notably New South Wales, where a lot of young people are moving away from that state because it's so expensive for them to live and survive. They're moving to other states. What's happening now is that they forever looking for essential staff like healthcare work and other essential, because that 90 to 100,000 actually fits people in that category who are working as healthcare worker. People who are nurses, physio, pharmacists, around that range of so if those people aren't able to buy houses on their own outright, they need to be helped. What country is that? Yeah, I mean, this is horrible. This housing prices of Australia, it is made in Australia because it's this stuff they have, to incentives they have about to give to property investors that's no longer fit for purpose. But they're not going to change it because it benefits the politician. I mean, the opposition is reported to have a lot of investment in properties, and Albanese has so many properties apparently that he's invested in. You can see that why they wouldn't want to have a fundamental policy changes that don't allow property prices to rise 4 or 5 times above the CPI, above the wages. Because even if you think about someone in 90 to 100,000, they about 8 times, they're going to have a mortgage that's 8 times their average income per year. 8 times, way above the recommended, average way of your income per year of a loan that you get from the bank. That is crap, people. As soon as I heard about this policy, I thought, oh gosh. The best thing, for my opinion, is that the housing property in Australia can only be addressed by building enough houses, affordable houses, for people who are low income. That means people who are unemployed, people who are on disability payment, and building enough affordable and enough supply, meaning enough houses for the population, even for the growing population. Because policies that we have is the policies that artificially increase the prices. You're going to see now with this policy, just watch the property prices. It's going to increase. You're going to see a rise in property prices in Australia because of this new policy, because it's going to increase demand. And it's artificial because demand is not increased because of more people are earning more money. It's increased because the government is giving people money. That means taxpayer is actually it's giving money to people to buy properties. And then even with that, when you look at the debt, it's increasing the Australia's debt as well in that same period. Who is going to pay for it? Who's going to pay for it? Your kids, your grandkids, and they're going to pay for it. They're going to pay for it. I hate any form of socialist policy. I think a government's role is always being try to make sure that the market is free and fair, that is fair for everybody, it's free, that anyone that works harder can be able to get into a property. But we know at this stage the system is actually rigged for everybody. It doesn't matter who you are. If you haven't had a wealthy parents, if you're new migrants, you are, you've come into Australia in the last 15 years, you're still going to be rigged because you're going to end up with your property that you've earned, the equity from your property being used to give your child to buy a property. That is actually cutting your own wealth. It's not a fair system. Your wealth is going to be cut because you now have to give your child some money to be able to enter the property market. Well, in South Africa, we used to call that a black tax because it's only Black families that would do that, would give money to their kids to be able to do certain things, to go to school, to do, to survive because of that lack of generational wealth. So in Australia, it's going to that where, because of how system is being run around property, you now, as a parent, you're going to now, with your wealth you've earned, work harder, you've earned your money, now you're going to have to actually cut it a little bit and give it to your child to enter the property market. It is still a problem. No matter how you look at it, it's a problem. If it's a fair and a really good economy, your child, my son, should be able to work harder, get a job, get a rental property, move out of the home, and save and buy their own property. This is how it should be, but it's not. So, not a big fan. Sorry, not a big fan of this stuff. I think it's crap, and I think it actually teetering around socialism. All right, thank you guys for listening. That's my rant on the new Help to Buy scheme. Hate it. Bye for now.